All right, well, thank you everyone for joining. Super happy to be here. Everyone walking by, instead of getting lunch, pop in here, get some coffee, and learn a bit, because there's going to be some good stuff going on, not just for me, but learnings from our company, Avoma, over the past year. We have had an interesting year. I think everyone here has. So to jump right in, we're going to talk a little bit about learnings that we've had, like you said, from the marketing side to the customer success side to the sales side during a very turbulent economy, and what we did to overcome that and still come out on top and still come out with revenue that doubled over the last year. So I think everyone here can agree that the last year was super difficult, lots of challenges that we all had. We're a startup in technology, which got hit harder than I think others. But every other customer that I've talked to, nobody has said this is the best year of their life. I've been in tech for 20 years, actually a little over 20 years. I feel like I'm 20 years old, which is weird that I've been in tech that long. So I think I started at about 5. But I know there's a few people from Avoma here. They know my real age. They know that that is not true. But what we saw in the last year, and really year and a half, we did see churn that went much higher than we had ever had in the past. We were fortunate to have a very high net retention number for the past few years. We were at 140, 150+% year over year, seeing customers that rarely ever left and always were growing with us. And the last year, we started to see people impacted by layoffs. There was a ton of layoffs within the tech sector. We sell by seat, so that impacted our business, and we saw people that were decreasing and going down in plans and down in seats. And with that, we had to make some very tricky decisions that were hard. So I didn't give my intro at the start. I'm the VP of Customer Success at Avoma. I am one of the early executives that they brought on board to help scale the company. I've been scaling teams for, like I said, about 20 years. And it's always hard when you have to let people go or cut budget. Nobody wants to have, especially on the marketing side, last year we had to cut our marketing budget by half. And nobody likes to see that at all. And like I mentioned, on the tech side, we saw layoffs. Actually go back here. We saw layoffs that were hundreds of thousands of people in the tech sector. So I'm going to get into 5 key tactical things that we've done to help increase revenue in these times. And the first is really around no-shows. So we are fortunate to be in the AI space. And even though we've seen some decline in our business, we've had a lot of increased attention just due to OpenAI and ChatGPT and all these things that have been in the news lately. And with that, we've seen our leads through our web form continue to rise and rise and rise. But what we saw at the kind of middle of last year is our no-show rates kind of went through the roof. So we started to look at our lead form, and we started to think about why is that the case and what we can do to reduce that. And the first lesson that we really learned, it's not about booking more meetings, it was about how do we book better meetings with our customers. So in looking at our lead form, we had this kind of old stance of make it as frictionless as possible for the prospect. We didn't want people to jump through hoops. We gave them a very minimal experience to book a demo on our website, and we really collected just their email address and their name, and that was it. And we thought that's the best way to go to open up the funnel. Well, we learned over the last few months of doing a ton of experimentation that by adding more friction, we actually were able to decrease the no-shows that we had a ton. And what we did was very simple. So all we really did was we added in a phone number field to the form. And I know right before the talk, they were talking about phone numbers and how sometimes that can be a little bit old school. But we added a phone number in to make sure that if someone does not show up, we can give them a quick call and see what happened. And as well, just to add a little bit to the process to make sure that they are a serious buyer. Some of the kind of facts are, 27% of leads are actually like truly ready. And a lot of the research that we did just let us dive into the fact that we need to make sure that people are vested and people are ready to actually buy and will be useful for our sales team and their time, right? So we started to experiment a lot with our lead form, adding just the phone number in, just that one piece in and of itself increased or decreased the no-shows that we had a lot. But then we also added a couple extra fields as well. So we added a field to make sure that we knew how large the team is that they're looking to onboard. Of course, you all know, and especially most of you here are on the marketing side, you can use a lot of data augmentation services to fill out a lot of fields behind the scenes, and you don't want to put or give customers or prospects extra work to do. But we also wanted to create a little bit more friction purposefully to make sure that they had intent and they had the right intent and they weren't going to be wasting, again, our sales team time. So by doing that and then routing it to the right person. So we also have a very small sales team, and I'll get into that in a second. But it was important that we get the enterprise customers to the right rep, our mid-market segment customers to the right rep, our SMB customers to the right rep. We handle companies from small agencies of 2 or 3 people all the way up to large enterprise companies that have hundreds of sales reps. So we do try and serve everybody with Avoma, which is great, but the hard thing is we were getting leads just kind of to everyone in a round robin fashion. And with that, we would have a large enterprise rep that would go to one of our junior sales reps and vice versa. So the other piece that we did is just made sure that we got the right leads routed to the right people. And the results were actually super staggering. So we were able to cut the no-shows that we had just by adding that phone number and those other fields in by 50%. And the surprise was, at the end, we didn't reduce the number of leads that came in. So we actually, after running this experiment for a couple months, ended up having the same number of leads that came in for our lead form that we did in the past, and we added friction. So that was one really solid learning that we had there. Now, on the team makeup size, like I said, we had to make some difficult decisions. We cut some people down. There were some performance issues that we saw as well. So we cut our sales team from a full BDR team with a leader with 4 or 5 BDRs down to 1. We cut our sales team down from 6 to 2. So we had a very scrappy, very small team. And with that, we had to make sure that people were ultra effective in what they were doing. So the thing that we really focused on is how do we cut the noise and really give them the ability to focus on selling and not all the busy work that you have. And the facts are, when you look at numbers, reps only spend about a quarter of their time in actual selling, and they spend a lot of other time on busy work, and typically busy work that leadership has them do that they hate. I've talked to a ton of sales reps. I've actually talked to a lot of people in marketing in the show too, and I've asked them, how clean is your CRM data? And how often do you want to run a targeted campaign to people, but you don't have the data in your CRM? So you're looking to target a certain set of customers, but you don't even know who your customers or prospects are because sales reps are not filling out their HubSpot fields, and it's 80% blank, right? So what we did is we really focused on how do we minimize all this busy work for everybody. And we were able to take about 85% of the fields that we have in HubSpot that are key. Things like competitors. We ran a campaign very recently that our marketing person ran where she was able to focus on a certain competitor because we released a brand new product that competes now with them. She was able to target all of our database very easily within 1 second because we've, over the last year, automated our CRM where every conversation that we have coming in through AI, we're pulling in all these key fields, and we're pulling in, again, about 85% of the fields that we need into the CRM automatically. So no manual data entry is needed. We're pulling everything in all on its own, and now you have this gold mine of data that you can access and pull in the right way. And what this did is it added at least 4 hours of selling per week per rep. And again, with such a small team, that was golden to have that extra time to sell some more deals. And with that, we were actually able to hit our revenue targets, even with cutting the team in a third. And as we're rebuilding now, we were able to hit our targets. Now we're able to increase quota. And this year, now that we have a team that's growing back, should be able to increase our numbers in a much larger way. The third thing that we saw, though, is, we are a sales and product-led organization. So we believe in having this kind of hybrid sales motion where we are a partially product-led team, we have a free trial process, we have very transparent pricing, but at the same time, we also, we want to get customers in very quickly and very easily and have sales jump in at the right time. So we noticed that our trial conversions were actually pretty low. And the reason is we treated every trial the same. So anyone that came to our website, they sign up for a 14-day trial, they start to use us. What would happen is our sales team would reach out to them on minute 1 and say, hey, I want to talk to you. And again, with a lean team, they were spending a lot of time with some people that might not want to talk to them. I actually hate it when a sales rep calls me when I fill out a trial on a website. I want to do my own discovery. A lot of people in marketing are the same way. You want to kick the tires yourself, but then you want to be contacted at a very specific time when the time is right. So what we did is we empowered our sales team with a lot of product usage and triggers so they could get that context out to the prospect at that right time. The interesting stat is that we got from SaaStr, product-led sales team versus only sales-led or only product-led, but when you combine both and you have a hybrid motion, you have a 3x conversion rate. And we really believe that this is the way of the future as well. We believe that the way people are selling is changing. And what we did specifically is we put together a product qualified score for each person and each account. And with that, we looked at all data. We pulled in a ton of usage data into HubSpot. So we know things like, for example, when someone starts a trial, if they invite 5 coworkers to the account, that is a trigger that is huge. And that's a trigger that we know now has an account with a ton of intent. So we'll raise the score of that lead in. And when we raise the score, this is now going to give a trigger to the rep that here's someone with a lot of intent, and it will give them a trigger that they now have invited 5 people within the account. So the rep knows to reach out to them at that given time, which might be like 4 or 5 or 6 days into the trial process. So they're not going to be reaching out on day 1 with just a generic, hey, how can I help you? They're gonna reach out on day 6, knowing that they just hit a certain flow within the product, and they're gonna be able to give them extremely relevant data that will help them get to the next step of what the trial is. And we're always looking for a certain amount of adoption too. We're waiting until people, again, hit that like light bulb aha moment. They are ready now, hopefully, to buy and have a real conversation about what our product can do. And this was able to, within about a quarter, increase our ACV by almost 25%. So we saw not only conversions went up, but also our ACV went up a lot. All right, so fourth tip is all these things that we did were process related, and those are great. But when it comes down to it, we also noticed that we weren't spending as leadership or as peers a lot of time on coaching at all. And again, when you're small and you're kind of a scrappy startup, you don't have a lot of the extra infrastructure to spend on coaching. So we started to realize that coaching was a gap. Coaching was something that we were not investing in, and we knew it was important. And there's tons of data and tons of studies that will show why coaching is important. And we have some up here. Higher win rates. We all know that it is good to have a culture of learning and a culture of coaching, but nobody does it. because it's hard and it takes a ton of time. But we finally put our foot in the sand and we just said, no matter what, this is something that we have to invest in. If we invest in people early, we're going to produce the right outcomes that we're really looking for and produce a culture that as we grow as a company is something that's going to be important for us culture-wise. So what we did is really actually 4 things. There's 3 up here, but I'll talk about 4 quick things. One thing that we did is we focused on just peer-to-peer coaching. So one thing that was super important was to say, all right, from the individual contributor level, everybody should be, 1, knowing what a good call looks like and a bad call looks like. People should have a framework and they should know, even as something as simple as setting an agenda at the very start of a demo call. What does a good agenda look like and what is it from a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5? So we put together a rubric, we shared it with the team, everyone knows that. People started to do peer-to-peer coaching, people started to do their own self-coaching, and then leadership started to spend 5 hours per week at a minimum, so everyone in leadership is required to give their team coaching at a one-on-one level and on a group level too. So one thing that my team does is we get together every Thursday and we have an hour-long feedback Friday. It's called Feedback Friday, but it's on a Thursday call, and we go over the game tape and we look at it like a professional sport team would look at a game tape. We analyze every word, and people at the start, I think, hated it. But over time, it is really, I think, one of the favorite meetings of the week that we have. Even though we grill, but we don't grill people, it's all about how do we get better, every single one of us? How do we refine every single part of a call that you have, and how can you make that perfect? And the other thing that we do, though, is we actually use AI first. So we score every single call that we have at the company through an AI engine. And what that allows is us as leaders, or even people as individuals, them to then go into trends that they see and dive in deeper manually. Because you can go in and do 5 hours of coaching a week on a call, and you can just flip a coin and say, oh, let me pick this call here. I see Sarah had a call yesterday. I'm going to just listen to it and see what it is. And it might be perfect or close to perfect. And there's not a lot of opportunity. I love to give praise, and we should all give praise, but there's not a lot of opportunity in just saying, okay, great job. Where Sarah's going to get better is when I say, hey, here's a call that there was an objection that you could have handled a ton better. So we use AI to give us this needle in a haystack, and AI will give us, here's trends by person based on a rubric that you've set up that will now give you a lot of learnings into what you need to coach on at a deeper level. And with this, we were able to, on the sales side, increase our win rates from 50% to 25% to 50% and doubled our quota attainment. So on the sales side, we saw a huge impact. On the customer success side, we also saw a ton of impact, and we just saw improvements to the culture that we're building, which is just as important to me as the end results that we're getting, because that'll bring end results at the end. And the last piece is, we did say, I started off and I said we had a net retention that was over 140% per year, 150% per year. We saw that dip below 100% for the first time ever on a couple months in a row. And what we started to realize is, one fortunate thing in a way is a lot of it wasn't our fault. I hate to say that because I always think CS can do anything. But we did have a lot of customers that were downsizing. We had many customers that did 30 to 40% layoffs, and since we sell by seat, they were reducing their spend with us by 30 to 40%. So what we focused on is how do we impact that by looking at expansion, and how do we find expansion within our customer base. So with expansion, what we did is we used conversation intelligence to look for certain words and give us triggers so we can be proactive in finding the right accounts that are ready to expand. And we look for simple things like, in all of our calls, are people saying we're hiring? And you might be on a call and you're running through a whole bunch of different agenda items, and you miss that the customer said that they were hiring, and you just kind of go on to the next piece. Well, now that is flagging that call, and we know, oh wait, they're hiring. Let me go back to that customer and figure out what group is hiring. Let me talk a little bit more about that. Are those people going to need seats within our tool? So by using conversation intelligence to alert us of key things going on, we were able to get a lot of insights into potential expansion down the road. And that was one thing that even though we still continue to see, unfortunately, contraction, and thankfully I'm seeing that subside now, and I think the economy will be turning around a corner in Q4. But even seeing right now continued contraction, with this proactive focus on expansion, we're able to get back over 100% at a consistent basis. And one more bonus thing, though, that we wanted to talk about is forecasting. And one thing that I'm a firm believer in, is forecasting is important. Forecasting is hard. Our forecasts, even though we use our own tool, we use conversation intelligence, our forecast was really crap. I mean, I hate to say it, but we were so far off. And the reason was a lot of the forecasts were really based on feeling. We had a lot of sales reps, which you always do, saying, oh yeah, I got this. Our VP of sales is great. He would run a typical forecast meeting and he'd go around the horn. All right, what are you forecasting? And they'd be like, oh yeah, I got this, I got this, I got this. I'm feeling good. And I always tell people, it's like feelings don't go with forecasts at all. Like feelings are great in like a relationship, I love my family. I will talk about feelings with my family. But when it comes to, is someone going to renew, is someone going to buy, the feeling really doesn't matter. Even in customer success, some people say, oh, you want happy customers. I don't want happy customers. I want customers that we are solving their business problem and we are solving a pain point that they have and we're driving real business value. And of course you want them still to like you and be happy, and there's relationships. But at the end of the day, relationships will only keep someone along for so long. And it's the same thing with a forecast. So our forecasts were terrible. Forecasts are really not about feelings, they're all about data. And the numbers show that most companies can't forecast that well at all. This is a problem that I think every single person has. So what we did is we built in a whole 360 view of all of our deals. Looking at things like what phrases are mentioned. Again, using conversation intelligence to really see competitors that are mentioned, are there pain points, and learning a lot about the deal, and then marrying together in this 360 view, what is the CRM saying about a deal, what is all the 4 or 5 meetings that the sales rep has had saying about a deal, and then how does that map, and how does the true reality map to what the rep is saying on a forecast call and what their feelings are, and giving leadership the ability to challenge them. So when someone says, oh yeah, this is great, it's going to close next week, I'm feeling good, the leadership can go back and say, well, looking at a health score that's all based on AI, based on email sentiment, call sentiment, all these factors going in, this doesn't look like it's going to close, and I think you are way off. And with that, we're able to get a much more accurate forecast within our customer base. And we actually have our forecast improved by 60%. Now, there's still a lot that we need to do, and we're not there yet, but this has been instrumental in getting a lot closer to having accurate forecasts that our sales leader can give to our CFO, and our CFO can actually run the business in a more predictable way. All right, so that is it. Those are the 6 things that we covered today. I know we're just about at time, so if anyone has questions after the fact, please let me know. I'll hang around for a little while, but hope this was helpful and hope you all got something out of it.
I love it. Let's give Mark a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. That was awesome. Great job, my friend.